Hey everyone. We're going to start off this morning with a few grounding deep breaths. So we're going to close our eyes. We're going to exhale all the air out of our breath. Inhale. And then exhale. Going to do this 2 more times. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Awesome. I wanted to start out today with some nice deep breaths because we're going to talk more about trauma, and that can be pretty heavy. So, I'm really glad that you can join me. I'm Jessica Disbrow, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the owner and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We offer holistic psychotherapy to youth and adults in Lakewood, Colorado. And we also have this awesome live video blog that we air every Saturday. It talks about different mental health issues from a spiritual and scientific perspective. So welcome. So trauma. I feel like my life has been so much, of my own personal trauma and then helping others heal from trauma while I was still healing from my trauma. And I have a suspicion that a lot of us are kind of experiencing that, where we've experienced hardships growing up and traumas, and we don't really know what to do with all of that. And, it can be really hard and scary asking for help. And the thing that we want to do is we really want to avoid it. We really want to bury it. We really don't want to deal with it. Like I've said in other episodes, we're looking to avoid pain. Because during survival, I touch something over here, oh my God, it hurts me. I'm going to stay away from that. That's survival. That's really helpful. But it's not so helpful when we're trying to heal from trauma. And really, our body and our mind really do want to heal from those hardships and that pain. And really, what I'm here to encourage everyone to do, because I think that the mental health profession and the way that Western medicine is set up right now is pretty disempowering to the individual. It kind of has this mentality that we're going to diagnose you. Well, there's something wrong with you, first of all. There's something wrong with you. And we're going to diagnose you, and then we have the special cure that's going to help you. And that really hasn't gotten us very far because all that's doing is putting a Band-Aid on something that really needs stitches and really needs a better modality of healing. And the healing that I'm really fond of is the healing that our body really wants to take, the healing that we've been doing for generations and generations before we had all of this therapy and things like that. And don't get me wrong, obviously therapy is amazing, but it isn't so helpful with trauma sometimes. As I covered last week, trauma is stored in a part of the brain that's nonverbal. So it's really hard to just kind of talk it out sometimes. And especially when we don't have the right support on the other side, it can be re-traumatizing. If that therapist, if that counselor doesn't really know how to hold space for someone to really let go and really grieve and fall apart in their office, it makes it really hard for that client to heal. Because the therapist on the other end is having a hard time holding that kind of space. And that space is intense. It is intense. There's a reason why people have trouble doing it. But the more we can work on ourselves, and especially as therapists, we really owe it to our clients to be working on our own issues all the time and making sure that we're not causing any harm to our clients and we can be the best we can be in that room. So I want to talk about 2 ways of healing. And really it's healing from within and healing with others. And I just think that the healing from within has really been overlooked. And the healing from others has really turned into kind of an enabling situation where now I'm the rescuer and I'm going to save you and you need me to, survive. And that's just, it's just a little tricky. That's kind of messy. So Judith Herman, who's an amazing author, and she's done a lot of great things for the mental health profession and, domestic violence. So she's really one of the first people to speak out about what was really going on with trauma and how we could really heal. And the things she's outlined, and because I've kind of adapted them into my own modality. So her big 3 things are, first, we have to establish safety when we're healing from trauma. And then we have to go through a period of remembrance. And then we have to go through a period of mourning. And I definitely agree with her there. These are, I talked about kind of the physical stages of stress and trauma last week. And this is the kind of emotional stages of healing from trauma. And they're really complex. So I'm going to break them down a little bit. So when you're establishing safety, this is really the area that I like to call self-healing, because that's really what you're doing. You're learning how to care for yourself. You're learning how to love yourself. You're learning how to create a safe environment for yourself, physically, emotionally, mentally. You're learning how to feel safe in your body. And that is the key. Healing and feeling good in your body, we have to start with the body first, because if our body's uncomfortable and our body's in distress, we're not going to be able to do anything else. And really this is just a general rule of thumb. If any of you are feeling upset in any way, take care of your body first. You might be hungry, maybe you're tired, maybe you've just had a long day. There's other things that are at playing a role in our emotional health that we can kind of address and nip in the bud, because we don't need to go down that rabbit hole of emotions. We don't. It actually doesn't serve us a lot of the time. We can do so in a very contained way, in a very healing way, but to just let ourselves really, it can be tough, So kind of pulling ourselves back to emotional safety is good, and not going down that rabbit hole of self-sorrow and pity. So it's about establishing power and control over yourself and your life. And now when we're talking about people who have never really had those things, who've never really felt good about trusting others or trusting themselves, and it felt like the world is a pretty scary place, that's really hard. Establishing safety, what does that even mean? What does that even feel like? And this is the problem, because there is a disconnect here. Because we have mental health professionals, we have a lot of people saying, oh, well, you need to do this. Just, feel safe, trust others, it will be okay. But doing something that you've never done before is hard. Our brains aren't wired for it because we've never done it. So it actually becomes a really complicated process, and that's why self-healing is so important, because we need to take those steps ourselves first before we can heal with others. Because if we don't trust ourselves, at least to some degree, if we're not loving ourselves, at least to some degree, if we're not making this commitment to ourselves and our healing, at least to some degree, we end up relying on someone else, and it ends up kind of being a codependent, dysfunctional pattern. So we really have to get ourselves to a certain place to be able to really trust the other person who's sitting in the chair, next to us, in our life next to us. So it takes time and patience and love for yourself. I have a really amazing story. A very close person to me shared this with me recently, and I just thought it was beautiful. So he had a lot of hardships growing up, and when he was growing up, he knew about guardian angels, and he wanted his guardian angel to help him, to save him. And he'd cry, and he'd look up at the ceiling and say, like, guardian angel, like, help me, like, I don't know what to do, and he felt like his guardian angel didn't come. And so, years later in his 20s, he told this story to someone, and the woman said, well, why don't you go back in your mind and be your own guardian angel for all those times that you felt like someone wasn't there? Go back and think about those memories and be your own guardian angel. And so he actually did. And every time he started to get upset, or a memory would be triggered from the past, he would go in through his mind and be his own guardian angel and do that love and protection of his younger self over and over and over again until he healed. Now, this story is amazing because I really do think that we all have the power to heal, and we all have the power to heal with God. We are God. Everything is God, I believe, and we are all so connected. So yes, he healed himself, and what was happening in his brain is he's actually rewiring his brain by doing that. By recalling those memories, especially in the moment during the trigger. Amazing work, because then it's happening in the now. Those emotions are coming back in the now, and you're dealing with them in the now, and you're restructuring your brain in the now, and it really does have lasting effects. So all this self-love mumbo jumbo, affirmations, do meditations, brainwash yourself, hypnotize yourself, have someone else hypnotize you. That all really works because our bodies and our brains want to heal. Now, healing with others is amazing. And I really do feel like after you've come to a certain point in your own self-healing, then it's time to heal with others. And it's such a beautiful process. So we all have people in our life who we trust. And if we don't have people in our life who we trust, as we've started the self-trust and self-love work and that first inner healing, you'll start to find those people. So don't worry. If you feel all alone in the world, it's fine. You're not, I promise. You've got you, and that's the most important thing. So healing with others is beautiful because it allows us to go through a period of remembrance, a period of recalling those traumatic incidences in a safe environment with people that we feel loved and cared about, or ideally a really great mental health professional who can hold space for us. And we go through our healing and we go through our story and we talk about it, and we feel about it is really what's most important. The trauma dynamics workshop training that I did really talked a lot about how trauma is getting stuck in a certain area of the brain, and basically the trauma needs to be reintegrated into the rest of the brain system. So by recalling those memories and really feeling it and really having someone else to support us, or really supporting ourselves through this process, we can fully integrate that trauma into the brain. And now, we've really felt it during the story. We've really let go. Cry. Let your body shake. Let your body do whatever it's going to do. Because what's happening is your body is reintegrating that trauma throughout so it can really heal. Or else it's fragmented. And it's just not good for you, and it's not good for the people around you, because ultimately what happens when we don't deal with our issues is they come out sideways, and they come out at the people who are closest to us, and that's not fun. So the next step really is mourning, and that, I believe, is really fully accepting the trauma and what's happened, and fully forgiving ourselves and the people involved. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to say what you did is okay, because in a lot of cases that's absolutely not true. It wasn't okay what they did. It's more of an understanding that that person was in a really not good place when they made those decisions and when they took those actions. And forgiveness is about having kindness and understanding for that person, but also having good boundaries for ourselves to recognize when people aren't safe for us, and when it's time to cut a relationship out of our lives. And I know we all want to be really nice and we don't want to tell people mean things, but some people are toxic. Some people just aren't good for us. And as you do this work, you might realize that at one point you were that toxic person. And that's okay. That's not bad. It's just, we are where we are, and we can only start from here. We can only meet ourselves where we're at. So finding full acceptance and really integrating that trauma narrative into our lives, making meaning of that trauma, how it taught you lessons. There's always lessons in every experience, and trauma brings so many lessons, and it brings lessons in its healing. Because when we heal from our trauma, we're not just healing from one trauma, we're healing from a lot of different things, and when we heal that much, it gives us strength to heal the rest, and the whole thing just kind of starts to organically unravel. But those first steps are really hard and really intense, and so it's really important that we get support, that we give ourselves that love, that care, that support. So next week, I'm going to be talking about knowing what we need and how to ask for it, because it's just really tricky, and it kind of goes back into the self-care, back into the self-love and self-healing. What do we do? How do we ask for help? How do we even know what we need? Because a lot of times we get really upset and we don't even know what we need, and it becomes really difficult and challenging for us. So I did want to just say one thing. I know I had said an episode and a half ago that I would talk about the ego mind and talk about Eckhart Tolle and Freud and things like that. And I'm just not sure I want to go there yet. I feel my heart is speaking to me, and I feel like the work that I've been presenting is really key. And, the ego mind stuff is interesting, but it's hard to kind of apply it. And so I'm still kind of working out a way to explain it in a way that I think would be the most helpful. So we're just going to table that for a while. And, next week I'm going to be, talking about how to figure out what we need and how to ask for it. So thank you all so much for joining me. I don't see any questions. I'm going to give a minute, though, in case there are any. And like I'm saying, it's really, we all heal in our own way and in our own time. So really it's a journey of learning about you and what you need, because you actually know what you need better than anyone else. And if we keep waiting for other people to take care of us, it's just don't, it's not good. So, all right. I don't see any questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all next week, and thanks a lot. Please like, share, spread the word with your friends and family. If people in your life are suffering from trauma and you see that, sending a video like this is helpful. And, I might have just outed you on that, but, I think it's all for love, and it's all for healing. So we kind of just have to get over ourselves a little bit. All right. Thanks a lot.